In this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 poisons that are in our mind that is causing our suffering. And also, I'm going to give you 3 antidotes to take away these 3 poisons. Hello everyone, it's Jason, and I'm here answering your questions about Zen, meditation, your practice, your life, any kind of question. Today's question is about the 3 poisons. Now, this is the teaching that you will find in Buddhism. Let me read this question for you. Hello, Jason. I have recently just read about the 3 poisons in Buddhism. Can you explain how they influence our daily lives? I think this is a very important question to look at, and it really has nothing to do with Buddhism or any kind of religion. It has to do with human suffering. And these 3 poisons are ignorance, hatred, and greed. Let's take a look at ignorance. Ignorance refers to ignoring or having misconceptions about the truth, especially when it comes down to impermanence. Everything in this world appears, stays for some time, and then disappears. And sometimes there's this kind of delusion that we're going to be able to keep everything in our life. I'm going to keep my relationship. I'm going to keep my job. I'm going to keep my retirement. I'm going to keep this body. And of course, we all know that this is not true. But I think sometimes we ignore that truth, and it really causes a lot of fear, confusion, maybe anxiety. So just seeing the truth that everything appears, stays for some time, and then disappears is very valuable. Another thing that we ignore or have a misconception of is the concept of self. We're always talking about ourself. I believe in this. I don't like this. I hate this. I love this. But if we really investigate this, what is this I? What is this self? Where does this idea of self come from? Does anyone know? Put it down in the comments below. So sometimes in Zen teaching, you might hear about the true self. So there's this idea of our self, and if we take that idea away, then there's this true self, and I'll get into that a little bit later. The second poison is hatred. And it's pretty obvious that hatred causes a lot of suffering in this world. If you look at all of the fighting and wars and killing, it all stems from hatred. And hatred usually comes from fear. So earlier I mentioned ignorance. So if we don't really see the truth of ourself, our true self, then this ignorance can be expressed in hatred. Sometimes people express it in fear or power. There's many different ways people express it. But hatred is really the main cause of most suffering in this world. Now, everybody has anger. In fact, anger, it can be a very useful tool. But if we hold on to the anger and not let go, if we fuel this anger becomes hatred. There was a grandfather who was talking to his 2 grandchildren, and he said, "Inside of me, there's a fight. There are 2 wolves fighting each other. The first wolf is the wolf of ignorance, greed, hatred. The second wolf is the wolf that represents love, clarity, compassion, and wisdom. And this fight between these 2 are inside of me, but also it's a fight inside of all human beings." And then one of the grandchildren asked, "Well, which wolf is going to win?" And the grandfather said, "It's the one that you feed." The third poison is greed. Now, of course, we all want something in life. But if we hold on, if we attach to that want, if we fuel it with ignorance or hatred, then that also can cause a lot of suffering. And this attachment, this holding, can be attachment to power, money, fame. It could be attachment to our ideas, our beliefs, our opinions. If we really look closely to this, we can see how much suffering it does cause in the world. There's no problem, like I said, wanting something. But we have to be realistic about it. We can't ignore the truth of wanting. Because the first thing that can happen from wanting, especially if we're attached or holding, is we don't get that thing, so we're dissatisfied. Or, this happens quite often, we get what we want finally, but you can't keep it. Earlier I mentioned impermanence. There's nothing in this world that we can keep. And then the third thing that can happen from this attachment to wanting is maybe we get that thing, but we want it to be a little bit different. Only if I got paid a little bit more. Only if my partner was nice to me. Only if I was a little bit taller. Or we want more. It's not enough. I want more. So these are the 3 results from this attachment to wanting. And it's pretty clear how this causes a problem in our lives. So the first antidote to ignorance is wisdom. Now, I made a video about this already. I'll put a link down below of how to develop this wisdom. But again, this wisdom is waking up to the truth. Seeing through our delusion about ourself, seeing through the delusion about others, and seeing through the delusion of this world. And we call that your true self. If we take away the idea of ourself, then everything's already clear. And I've noticed in my experience that to see impermanence clearly. Some people get depressed by this. Well, if we can't keep anything in this world, then what's the point of all of this? Well, that's a good question for you to investigate. But something that I've experienced is I don't know how much time left I have. I have some idea of what I want, but I don't even know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. So for me, it's not taking anything for granted, especially when it comes to my family, friends, teaching. So this is something we can use to really help take advantage of this time we have left. And also to really make important, or maybe to realize what's really important in our lives. Because there are so many things that we think about and worry about. It's not very important. Next, to cure hatred, we can use love. Now, there's a lot of ideas about what this is, and I don't want to turn this into some kind of spiritual idea, but let me read what love means in Buddhism. In Buddhism, love is primarily understood as loving kindness, metta, which means wishing for the happiness and well-being of all beings without attachment or discrimination, essentially encompassing a selfless desire to see others be happy. I have to say that I do like the intention of loving kindness, but in my experience, I don't think it's enough to think or wish for all beings to be happy. Yeah, I may wish for all beings to be happy, and then I'll encounter someone I don't like or who is very difficult. So where is love then? Sometimes I'll talk about attachment love and unconditional love. And I think we've all experienced both of these. Attachment love means that I want something from you to make me happy or complete, right? There has conditions behind it. So I want this, this, and this from you. Then I will love you. But if I'm not getting this, this, and this, then I don't love you anymore, right? This is an attachment. It's not very clear. And from our experience, we know the result of this kind of love. The other love is unconditional love. So if I'm already complete, I don't need anything from you. There are no conditions. Also, I think when we wake up from our ignorance, we start to see the truth. We start to see people as suffering beings. We all are suffering beings. And again, if I'm already complete, I don't need anything from you. So there are no conditions. I think parents have this experience sometimes. Even if their children do something bad or something they didn't like, there's still care and love for their child. So I think this is something that's really important, especially in today's world. And again, this is not some kind of spiritual mumbo jumbo about love. It's really the direct experience of it. And the last antidote to greed is compassion. And again, there's a lot of ideas about compassion, but it's also a direct experience. There's one definition of compassion that really resonates with me, and that is to suffer with. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you're really feeling good. You had a good sleep, you're feeling happy and energized, and you go out of your house and you walk down the street and you see somebody who's approaching you, who's very depressed, very sad, what do people do when they don't want anybody to mess with their mood? You see that person and you go the other way, right? But true compassion, again, is to suffer with. So if you're walking and this person's coming, and then you connect, then you feel this sadness. And Zen, we call it becoming one. But it's not an idea of everything as one. It's the removing of our self, our condition, our ideas, our beliefs, and have a true connection in that moment. Then you feel the sadness inside, and then you want to do something. So again, compassion is not just a feeling or an idea. It's an action. So those are the three poisons in our mind that is causing our suffering and suffering for others. So I hope the antidotes were helpful, and perhaps it's something you can implement in your own life to create more clarity, love, and compassion. I'll put a link down below to the video of how to develop wisdom if you're interested in that. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you very soon.